Welcome to the HU Move Makers podcast, where we highlight folks that are blazing the trail and making moves in Howard culture. Hello and welcome to the HU Move Maker podcast, where we highlight folks in Howard culture that are making moves and trailblazing. Today we got a very special guest coming to the show. We got Kaysia Earley. She's a lawyer out in Florida, but several distinctions, man. She's a Christian attorney, and she says she fights for her clients' fundamental rights, aggressive advocate, criminal and civil litigation, first generation college graduate, first in her family to earn a professional degree, represented thousands, so she getting that bag. Wow, okay. Won over 230 cases, got a bachelor's from Howard University in 2004, University of St. Thomas, got a Juris Doctorate in 2013, happily married, 4 children, top 40 under 40, top 10 best attorney in Florida for customer service. Wow, what does that mean, customer service? Top 10 best attorney in Florida for personal injury. So that means Interact need a check. You better call Kaysia because she gonna get you to that bag. So Kaysia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Josh, for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. A pleasure to have you. I know we've been playing a little bit of phone tag and everything. So good to have you on the show, man. So I want to get into your background because it's very interesting. I saw the headline, from prison to the trial,
That's it.
So you were a felon, is that right?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right? So you are a felon. You spent time in jail. Not only were you on the wrong side of the law, you were locked up while you were pregnant.
That's right. And it all started at Howard, coincidentally. So
thanks, shout out to Howard for getting you locked up. Is that what you're saying?
Right. You gotta pay that tuition. So, being at Howard, I always worked. I had the on-campus job at the undergrad library, and then I also had a part-time job. It was actually at my part-time job, I was working at the DSW over there by Pentagon Mall.
Wow, DSW, yeah. Man.
DSW. So I'm working there. Some of my classmates found out where I worked. Everyone wants to hook up. And, you give it to them not knowing or thinking that, I'll get fired is the worst thing that can happen to me because you're giving away your employee discount. But, it caught up with me. So I was charged with felony embezzlement simply because the amount was over $300, the amount that I discounted the product by. So I'm thinking, okay, well, just fire me. Nope. They called the cops. And I was actually in my junior year. So they called the cops, had me arrested. So I'm sitting in the cell waiting to get a bond. And I'm like, you know what? How did I get here?
Damn, so, all over the hookup.
Right.
Damn, so you probably was, I know you, were you caught off guard? Did they set you up? Like, what was it?
Kind of, sort of, because typically I run the register. So that particular day when I came to work, right after my last class at Howard, I came to work and it's like, we don't want you on the register today, Kaysia. I'm like, okay. At that moment, I kind of knew because I worked the register. There was never a long line. So I was good at what I did. I just did something.
Too good.
Right. But when they took me off the register, it's like a feeling you get in your stomach. You knew that, something's not right. They took me in the back and I gave a statement, and they used that statement.
You said you was guilty or innocent when you wrote it out?
I admitted to what I did. And I thought that they would have leniency on me. Here it is, a college student, just trying to make money for her books. It wasn't as if I was selling, getting the items or boosting the items. I was discounting them. It still was wrong. I'm not making excuses for what I did, but I just thought that they would be lenient on me, and not so.
So looking back, should you have fought it and said, I'm not guilty, I'm on a lawyer?
At least I could have I did have a public defender because, college student, you don't have money for a private attorney. But maybe if I hired a private attorney, they probably would have fought for me to be in like a diversion program or something where I didn't have to go to jail or didn't have to go through that whole process of being a felon. You follow what I'm saying? So it took about a year to go through the court system. So I actually graduated from Howard. Then I graduated from Howard, and then I had to turn myself in.
Damn, that's fucked up. So man, so you do that time. So let's back up. I mean, so how much were you discounted by? Like, how did you? It seems, on the surface, like, okay, if something's $100 and I get somebody a 20% discount, it's $20. I mean, how did you get caught? And like, how much how much money were you shaving off? Because for them eyes to be on you like that, it had to be a significant amount.
Well, it wasn't really the amount, it was how many times it was done. So I did admit to approximately 15 times doing the discount or changing the prices so that it could be a lower price on the shoe. So on the register, I guess corporate found out that, wait a minute, this particular register is,
Wow.
there's some fraudulent activity going on. So that's how it was caught.
Damn. So what about the friends you was hooking up? They didn't try to put no money together, get you a good lawyer or nothing?
No, you know what? I actually was ashamed during that time. It was a walk of shame to be taken to the back room with my supervisor and then to be escorted out in handcuffs. That was my lowest of low.
Wow.
Because at that very moment, I'm saying to myself, how did I even get here? I'm a first generation college student.
Mm.
I'm doing well in school. I'm about to graduate, and now I'm amongst what, quote unquote, criminals. So no, I actually kept it from everyone. I kept it from my family. And my boyfriend then, who's my husband now, was the one that bonded me out, was the one that took me to jail when I had to turn myself in to do my sentence. So yeah, I didn't really start telling people until I became saved. And when I say saved is when I totally surrendered my life to Christ and realized that when I started telling people about my story of incarceration, it actually helped them. So there's no shame in it now.
Man, that's a deep story. So you didn't tell it. When so you didn't tell anybody. So they walk you to the back. They say, "Hey, we know you're guilty." They're not even giving you an option of what happened. We know you're guilty. What happened? Write it down, sign
Right.
it. So you sign it, police come, take you away in cuffs, and they take you to the police station?
Yeah. They took me right there, Alexandria police station. And then I was booked the whole process, mugshot, everything. To this day, I can't even find my mugshot.
Really?
I'm Googling just to see. But yeah, I went through the whole process and then I was released and went to school the next day. Didn't even miss a beat. Went to
Wow.
class.
So you went to school the next day. Were you aware of how big this was? Because when we get these criminal offenses on our record for Black folks, it's hard to come back from that. Even if you're uh doing the right things for the rest of your life. I mean, were you aware of how damaging this could have been for you in the long term?
Yeah, it hit me when I was sentenced. So I'm sentenced in 2004, pregnant with my son, and I actually my next plan after graduating from Howard was to go to law school. But
Damn.
I put it off for 7 years because I was like, there's no way a law school is going to accept me with a record. So I thought, there's no way, even if they accept me, that I will be able to be sworn in to be a lawyer. So I never even applied. I just kind of gave up on my dream of becoming a lawyer and I became a paralegal. So for 7 years, instead of, fulfilling my dreams, I worked downtown DC, McDermott, Will and Emery, as a paralegal specialist. And then one day it hit me. I need to go to law school.
Wait, so how long were you locked up?
Well, since I was pregnant, I was given a suspended sentence. So 30 days in solitary confinement. And I was supposed to get a year. But because this was my first offense, they suspended the year. I had 3 years probation, restitution, 200 hours of community service. And if I did not fulfill all of those obligations within the 3 year period, they would have sent me back to jail to complete the entire year. So I kind of, because this was my first offense, I wasn't given the full sentence.
So they threw the book at you.
Yeah, because there were people that were given probation, no jail time whatsoever. There were people that were given a diversion program. And that particular day, I just felt that, my attorney didn't fight for me because I had so much evidence against me and I had that written confession or admission. I felt like I was given the severe punishment as a first time offender.
Wow. So did they read you your rights?
No, because prior to the cops being called while I was at the store, the manager spoke to me. So only an officer have to read you your rights if you're going to get into incriminated information. So I'm sorry. So basically, no, I wasn't read my rights. In fact, I didn't even know my rights, and a lot of people don't know their rights.
Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate. A lot of people watching this are going to be like, okay, if you know you about to go to jail, why would you get pregnant?
No, I was actually, I didn't know that I would be sentenced to jail because and first of all, that pregnancy wasn't planned. Okay. All right. It
That
wasn't.
was like trying to get it popping before you got
No,
before
no,
you
no.
got
It definitely wasn't a mistake. When I say it wasn't planned, it wasn't a part of my plan, but obviously I accepted it.
Mhm.
But I didn't know that I would go to jail. I felt, again, you think you're a first time offender. This wasn't as bad. It was just giving someone a discount. I figured the judge would have had been lenient with me. I never expected jail. In fact, my attorney told me I wasn't going to go to jail. It was a complete surprise to him when the judge sentenced me. So yeah, that was a complete shock to me.
Man, that is definitely unfortunate. So okay, so you wind up in jail. What was that experience like?
Well, when I was first had to turn myself in, I was amongst general population because I never told the judge that I was pregnant, so the jail didn't know I was pregnant. I wasn't showing at that time, and so I'm in general population, sharing a bunk with two other inmates, and so I'm making a call to my boyfriend then, complaining about the food, and obviously, the calls are intercepted and recorded. And they heard that I was pregnant. And the next day, they knocked on my cell and transferred me to solitary confinement. So 23 hours out of the day, you're in a cell pretty much with absolutely nothing. You have a pillow, you have your bunk, and you have the sink connected to the toilet, just like on for life.
Really? But
Really.
is like that prison life in terms of because you go from like the Howard, you go from Mecca to being at the Mecca to being in jail. I mean, is it how much of a culture shock was that for you?
Gosh, it was completely a culture shock because remember, I had just graduated. In fact, I was sentenced a week before my graduation. So I had to beg the judge to allow me to walk across the stage. And I had to promise that I would turn myself in. Had I not turned myself in, I would have had the automatic year sentence. So I had that hanging over my head. And then he was lenient enough to allow me to, walk across the stage. So I'm walking across the stage on the yard, knowing, well, the smaller ceremony, I'm walking across the stage knowing that I got to turn myself in. Now, how did this even happen to me? And
Man,
then being in jail that first night, it was the worst experience ever because like I said, I'm pregnant. I have the morning sickness. They don't feed you, they just feed you to sustain you. They don't feed you with nutrition. So it was very difficult.
man. So I'm sure those last year or whatever at Howard, that probably went past for you quick.
It did. It did.
What were the people like in prison? How were you treated? Like, was it just, hey, I'm just here to do my time? Was it rough? Like things are kind of portrayed on TV where, you locked up for some little petty misdemeanor and you doing time with somebody got triple murder. What was it like? Were people treating you nice or what?
Right. Initially, no, because you're looked upon as fresh meat. So, dealing with females is automatic jealousy. So you had to deal with that. I had to go in trying to decide whether I'm going to be that girl that grew up in Liberty City, because I grew up in Miami, or will I go and just stay into myself? So being in solitary confinement was actually a blessing to me because there were lots of fights. You have commissary, people will steal your commissary. So I was kind of upset at first that I was isolated, but being in solitary confinement actually protected me, because had I got into a fight, I probably would not have had my son, who's now 15 years old. He'll be 16 in January. So God has a way of allowing you to, what may seem initially as punishment, it always worked together for your good.
Man. So okay, so fight. So how many days or how many months were you locked up total?
I got the 30-day sentence. So because
Okay.
it was called good behavior. I was released on good behavior
Okay.
for days. He suspended the remaining months of my term, and then I had to do everything else: the 3 years probation, the restitution, and the 200 hours of community service. And I actually did community service. You being from Howard, I know you know this name.
Mm-hmm.
Congressman Albert Wynn from Maryland. I did my community service on Capitol Hill. So come on, talk about favor.
Wow, that's dope. That's
Yeah,
dope. That's awesome, man. To really benefit from community service, because a lot of times people just picking up trash, you know what I mean, or doing
yeah.
something random and asking people to, sign something. When you were getting ready to go to jail, were you like Googling stuff like what to do when you get in jail,
How
like
you
reading
know?
books?
How you know? Let me tell you. So I told you I did lots of fashion shows at Howard, right?
Hmm.
So I always was into my looks back then. So, you know, it hit me the night before I had to turn myself. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm not trying to go in there looking cute. So I put my hair in cornrows. And then I looked in the mirror. I was like, well, I don't like how this looks, because I'm maybe sending the wrong message. So I took the cornrows out. It was so new to me. It was scary because I'm like, okay, I got to fight to survive. Like, but God protected me the entire time. Like,
Mm,
but I was Googling how to, keep my lips moisturized while I'm in jail, because, the little things we take for granted, it's not allowed in jail. So gum and all this other stuff. So yeah, I was definitely, Google had just came out a few years earlier. So yes,
man,
I was definitely Googling.
wow. So you get out of prison, you're looking for work. Is having that stain of being a criminal, is that making it hard to find, a career?
It did initially. So I worked at odd jobs. I worked at Hamilton Crown Plaza, downtown DC. I worked at the hotels, Omni Shorn. I don't even know if they're still open. But so yeah, initially it was. Here I am. I had a bachelor's degree in political science. I didn't take the LSAT because I figured no need to go to law school anymore. I done screwed up. So I looked for odd jobs, and then I finally applied for a law firm position, and surprisingly, I got it. And I believe I was still on probation at the time, so they hired me, and
What
that
was
started.
that? So I'm sure that was brought up some way in the interview somehow. Like what was that conversation like?
I basically admitted my fault. I mean, and just tried to convince them that I was rehabilitated. It was a dumb mistake, and they hired me. So I believe that they believed that I was rehabilitated, and that you know they knew that I can do the job, and my past didn't overshadow my future.
Wow, that's hard to do. How did your friends and family receive you when you told them the news? I mean, um, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it was 50-50. So some of my family members were encouraging, because, like I said, they didn't know at first that I had to turn myself in.
Wow.
And then other family members, they were, give me the side eye, like, she the first to graduate from
Right.
college, but look, she ended up like the rest of, you know what I'm saying? So
Man.
it was half, and it's like that in every family. There's no perfect family out there, but fast forward 15 years later, look at her now. So
Wow.
it
So
worked out.
I mean, do you think if you would have told them like immediately that maybe you would have had more support in terms of fighting the case and getting a lighter sentence?
No,
No.
because I'm the first person in my family to even be in college, and I didn't have the financial support to pay for my education. So why would you pay for my criminal indiscretion? So no, I held it down then with going to school and working full time. So I telling them to me, I really kept it from them because I didn't want to be a disappointment because I felt that everyone looked up to me as a model role model.
Mm.
So how can I explain this to them?
So doesn't that hurt though for your own family and friends to kind of judge you in a way? Because it's one thing for me to judge you. I don't know you, so what's my
Right.
opinion worth? But for people that know you and experience all the good sides of you to kind of turn their back on you in that pivotal moment in your life, I mean, how did that feel?
It always hurts because when you love someone, especially family, and they either turn their back on you or they talk about you and try to slander your name, it does hurt. But it, like I told you before, it always worked together for your good. And I go through that now, with the higher you reach in success, we know it, we see it, that those that you quote leave behind because they failed to do what they were supposed to do, um, jealousy,
Mm,
envy, all of that comes into play.
wow.
So it's like that. And the way I deal with that is I just use that as my motivating force to keep it moving. I'm not going to force anyone to love me. It's unfortunate, but that's life.
Damn, that's tough, man. So mentally, when you're in that situation, what are you telling yourself? Are you setting goals? Are you making promises to yourself? Like mentally, when you're in a rut like that, when you know that you're underachieving, uh, when you know you're not in a good spot, how do you persevere?
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing about Howard is it teaches you to fight, right? Even when I was there, and shout out to Patrick, even when I was there, we fought for just financial aid regulations, at the A building. So that's the fight that Howard teaches you. So I'm 7 years go by after my arrest, right? And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm a paralegal. I know that I've always wanted to be a lawyer. So why am I still in this? And, the Spirit of the Lord just said, apply for law school. Apply for the LSAT. I took the LSAT. And I knew that I wanted to come back to Florida because I grew up in South Miami. So I knew I wanted to come back. And I applied for St. Thomas in February and got accepted 2 weeks later. So here I am.
Wow. So, I mean, was it like, did you have a mentor at this time?
No one,
Like, okay.
nothing. Because see, I'm like the breakthrough in my family. I'm the first of everything. I was the first to graduate from college. The first probably to go to jail and have a sentence. The first to get married, the first to buy a car, the first to go to law school. So I didn't have anyone in my family to teach me or show me what to do to navigate the road to success. So no mentors, no
Mm,
one, just
wow.
being led and you know finding the journey and learning from my mistakes along the way.
Wow. So let's talk about your husband. I mean, he, stood by you this entire time. I mean, but it still must have been a tough on the relationship. I mean, it's not like you did 30 years, but
Right.
still, I mean, he's 20, 21. I'm assuming you guys are close in age.
Oh, no, you assume wrong because he's older than me.
Oh, okay. How old is your husband? What's the age
He's my
difference?
senior by 14 years. So
Oh, okay, okay,
yes,
okay.
he's older than me, but it's you are absolutely correct. It was tough on our relationship because he met me when I was in college. He already had his career. He was working in construction on commercial buildings all throughout DC. So he was already established. And I'm saying to myself, yeah, I have a degree, but what does he want with me? I'm a jailbird. That's how I felt. Like I really felt that I went to college for nothing because I was stained with this criminal record, and he held it down completely. And even in law school, when I was in law school, he became He had to do his career and he had to take care of the kids. Because at the time, by the time I got to law school, I had 3 kids.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's
Oh, so
always,
that's right. Yeah, y'all was getting it popping early anyway. So
I'm done. I'm waiting on my grandkids. She having no more kids.
okay. So, is this thing is it still on your record now?
It is, but I won't expunge it because if I expunge it, then that takes away from my story, right? Then what's the sense of talking about it if it's supposed to be hidden? And no, it's still there. It's still
So expunging, but that's not you recommend you take it off though for most people, wouldn't you?
yeah, yeah, sure. But that to me, this is why I'm such a good attorney. And it's not me tooting my own horn. It's my record because I lived that life. You feel what I'm saying? So I know what it feels like to be on the other side. So my compassion precedes me. I'm like, wait a minute, now I've been there. So even one day is too long. That's why when these judges are handing down 20 and 30-year sentences, you don't know what that does to someone's psyche because you are in a box for hours throughout the day. So I always remember that when I go to trial, it's like, you know what? You're sitting next to me. You're not going out that door to go to your jail cell. You're going to walk out with me. And that's the mindset that I carry from the jury selection all the way to the verdict.
Is there ever a situation where a public defender is good? I just hear nothing but horror stories.
But you know what? Part of that is true because when I graduated from law school, I was a public defender. So a public defender, they call them public pretenders. It's a negative stigma because there's some truth to that. There's some horrible, unethical public defenders. There's some horrible, unethical prosecutors. There's some horrible, unethical judges. I started off as a public defender because I wanted as much trial experience as possible because I knew that I was going to leave eventually and start my own firm. But I was realizing that some of these public defenders weren't prepping their cases, they weren't taking depositions, they weren't investigating, and they would just pick up the file and tell the client to take a plea. Like, how do you do that? You take an oath of office. Every person who's sworn into the bar, you take an oath to uphold the law. How are you upholding the law and telling this person to plead to 10 years with no evidence? So yeah, to answer your question, they're horrible, but there's some good, hardworking ones out there because I was one of them. Okay.
So are they horrible because they just got so many cases and they really can't just remember what's going on?
That's a lie. I had 225 clients at one time.
Wow.
And when I first started working at the public defender's office, they give you a stack of files, right? So you inherit 200 on your first day. And I'm saying to myself, how can I memorize all these? It just happens. You could pick up a folder and look at the name and you'll know everything. It's in here. That's if you really want to study your case. But that is part of the problem. That's too many cases. Right now, as a private attorney, I only have about 15. And I have a lot more time to spend on my cases. And that's why private attorneys are better attorneys because we don't have to worry about those 200. We can just worry about our 10 to 15.
Wow. So at what point do you turn your life to Christ?
In jail. It's crazy because I have so many clients in jail right now and they have all sorts of religions. And I think the reason why a lot of inmates usually find religion in jail is because you're cut off from the whole world. You're cut off from distractions. You have nothing. You don't have a radio. You don't have TV. I didn't even leave out for rec. Like they would give us rec time, but I didn't do that because I was afraid of getting in a fight and hurting my unborn child. So one night they buzz your door to get your breakfast and you have 15 seconds to open your door. If you don't open your door, you got to wait for the last round and your food is cold. So when I got up one morning, early in the morning, as I'm getting up out of my bunk, my knees were weak and I fell. And in the process of me falling, I was about to fall on my stomach. I could have hurt my unborn child or killed him. And I fell on my knees. And as I'm crawling to the door, I missed the buzzer. And that was my lowest point. And I just remember crying and seeing a vision. And because I told you I gave up on myself in jail, I was like, you know what? I got a record. I'm not going to be a lawyer, whatever. And it was as if the Spirit of the Lord spoke to me and told me that I will be a lawyer. He didn't give me a time frame, but I just saw a vision of me being a lawyer. And I was like, okay, well, I'm about to prove you wrong. Because if this don't happen, then there is no God. Because you can't give me this vision and not let it come to pass. And 7 years later, I, became a lawyer. So I serve a God that doesn't lie.
So, I mean, why not like Muslim, being a Muslim or some other religion? Was it somebody in prison that made an impression on you, or was it something that you read?
No, I grew up as a Christian. My mother was a single mother. She had 8 children. My dad left. And instead of her going crazy, she took us to church. So I grew up as a Christian in a Christian home. But when I went to Howard, I was on my own. I was paying my own bills. And I felt like, you know what? No one could tell me what to do. And I just did me. So for 3.5 years, because I settled down in my senior year, 3.5 years, I did me. And I did whatever I wanted to do other than go to church. So I kind of was cut off from that. But going to jail, I came back. So no one said anything. No one, convinced me of anything. It's a heart thing, and the other religions, it did not work for me. But ever since then, that's why I say I'm a Christian first and attorney second. And it's hard to see that together with a lot of attorneys.
Wow. So now you're able to spin that as a advantage, even
Mhm.
as a in your business model and in your marketing. Like, hey, you want an
Oh,
attorney that's been to prison? Holla at your girl. You know what I'm saying? And how has that affected your career?
I didn't tell anyone when I was a public defender because I felt that I would have been judged negatively by my competition. So, and then I wasn't friendly with any of my colleagues, any of the attorneys. So to me, I chose not to tell them. I shared it with my clients. But how has it affected my career? I left the public defender's office 14 months later, and I still to this day hold the record for the most jury trials, for the most not guilty verdicts, for the most trials
Wow.
within 14 months because I tried, I believe, over 50 jury and non-jury trials.
Wow.
The
So
average 10 in a year, to give you an idea. So
the average is what?
about 10 in a year.
Wow. 10
So
in
to
a
do
year.
so to do 50 in 14 months, this Black young lady did it. And I did it with the purpose, knowing that I need to get these people back to work. They can't go to work when you have a case pending. So they lose their job, they lose their home, they lose everything. So I was Speedy Gonzalez on everything. Like, yeah, as soon as I got the police report, let's get this thing ready for trial. Let's go.
What are the effects of somebody getting, you know, a Black person or a person with little means getting having a criminal record, even if it's something small? How can this change the trajectory of their life if it's not expunged or if they don't have access to adequate legal services?
It's detrimental because there's like over 40,000 collateral consequences associated with an arrest. So, what do I mean by collateral? So, you get arrested, first of all, most low income people, they work paycheck to paycheck. And if they don't work paycheck to paycheck, they're working hourly. If they're not working hourly, if they don't work, they don't get paid. So
Mm,
just one day that can have a ripple effect. So you have to bond out. You have to find money to bond out. So you can't bond out. Now you have to stay in jail for maybe 20, 30 days or a few months. And like I told you earlier, with COVID, I have a client sitting in jail right now because he wasn't given a bond. We have a great case, but we can't go to trial because court is closed. So he's been sitting there for almost 2 years. And, so there's so many collateral consequences associated with an arrest. And here's the crazy thing. The Constitution says that we're innocent until proven guilty, right?
mhm.
So why are there pre-incarceration while you're waiting for trial? Why is anyone locked up other than those crimes punishable by life, like murder or rape or robbery with a gun. Why is anyone sitting in jail if you're innocent until proven guilty? So that's the uphill battle I have, even convincing the jury that my client is innocent, rather than I have to prove his innocence. So it's detrimental.
So is the legal system really unfair to Black people?
Of course, it's proven. It's not only unfair,
But
it's
do you? I know it's proven, in the studies and stuff. But do you see it? Like, do you feel it when you walk into the courtroom? Like, is that
do
something that's like in your face?
come on, it's unfair to me. I'm a lawyer, right? So first of all, you don't know how many times I've heard, and I put this on my social media because I was like, I'm over this. You don't know how many times I've heard someone say you don't look like a lawyer, right? First of all, that's not a compliment. Second of all, you don't know what you just said to me, because, in other words, you would have never said that to an old white guy. He could come in with a wrinkled suit and jeans on, and he looks like a lawyer. So what you're telling me is, you Black girl, you don't look like a lawyer because we're not used to seeing you. So I even had a judge one time. I walked into court, and mind you, I'm in a suit with a briefcase, and she stops her entire court proceeding as I'm walking to where the lawyers sit. And she says, "Excuse me, ma'am, only lawyers beyond this point." So what did I tell you?
She did. No, she
If
didn't.
Yes, she did.
No, she did. She ain't say that. You made that up. She ain't say
No, yes, she did.
that.
And you know what's so crazy? I have to always remember, like I always say, people take my kindness for weakness, but don't let me flip to the other side. And I had to hold it in so much. The only thing I said to her was, "I am a lawyer," and she turned red. And I'm sitting waiting for my case to be called. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is what I go through. So if I go through this as a lawyer, can you imagine what my clients go through? If they have their dreads, if they have their gold fronts that they can't take out, right? And we got to go to trial, and I got to convince the jury that this guy right here is innocent. So yeah, it's a fight, but I've done it.
So how much are you advising your clients? I mean, you can't change your skin color, but how much are you advising them on, hey, you need to shave that, you need to cut that, or are you saying, hey, just be your authentic self?
No, I don't tell them to shave, cut, do anything.
Wow, really?
Because that's my job. So when you pick a jury, like 60 people will come in, and we have to dwindle that 60 down to 7, right? Or 12, depending on what the charges are. So I'm spending time with the jury, letting them know, listen, that's my client. And if anyone has a problem of the how he looks, raise your hands now. I've had people raise their hands, and obviously I would, strike them for cause. But that's my client. That's his true self. We're all individuals. Why does he have to cut his hair? Because if he has to cut his hair, right? What do you say to the other client that has a tattoo on his face? Cover it up with makeup?
Cut your head off. I don't know.
It's just there. You gotta deal with it. And so no.
Cut your head off and then come to court.
And what do you person who has a let's say a lingo? I grew up in the inner city. So I know how to turn my lingo on and off. So what do you tell them? Do you give them a quick English lesson? So no, you just
Wait, remember that I'm sure you followed damn, I forgot his name, with the case in Florida, the Stand Your Ground.
Oh, George
Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin.
Yeah.
Remember when they brought that girl up on the stage and it kind of fed into the stereotype of Black people being, not smart or whatever. But in reality, she just wasn't used to being in that type of setting.
Yeah.
So I mean, you don't coach, because when I watched that case, I'm like, this should be open and shut. It seems like an easy case for him to be prosecuted. I mean, you got the jury saying, not the jury, but the first responder saying, hey, walk away. You got him on tape saying they always do this. And then Trayvon Martin is 6th grade kid walking to his house. And then a man approaches him and he does what every father is going to teach their son to do, or every parent, which is fight back. And then of course he ends up winning and he gets murdered, and then dude gets off. I don't understand
You sound just like my husband. When we were watching the trial, I wasn't watching it as, just a regular person. I was watching it as a criminal defense attorney. And when the defense came with their defense of using the pavement as a, I told my husband, even before the jury deliberate, I said, he's going to get off. I said, because they provided a defense. Remember, the reason why someone is found guilty or not guilty is because the burden of the state. The state has to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So it wasn't that he got off per se. It was that the state didn't come back and rebut that presumption of guilt. You see what I'm saying? The defense came up and said, you know what? Yeah, he followed him. And Trayvon jumped out of the bushes and started pounding his head on the concrete. The state should have came back and said, no, this is what happened. You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of why he was found not guilty. But you know what? Even though he was found not guilty, he still doesn't have a life. Where can he go? He's recognizable.
He raised millions of dollars.
Yeah, he's going to need surgery to change the way he looks. He's going to need to change his name. He's never going to have a life. He'll always have a mark on his back.
I will never understand how he got off, and I will always believe that if that was a white kid that he did that to, a white woman, a white girl that was 12, and I don't care if she just started beating him up, he would be guilty. I'm sorry. I just
jail.
And this don't get
is why
it.
I say that the justice system is not fair. I have a client, and I've represented whites, blacks. I don't care. As a private attorney, if I believe in your case, I'm taking your case. I don't take every case that comes my way.
And you got the money?
No, you know why? Because it has to come from here. Because always what comes from the heart goes to the heart. So, it's crazy because I've had white clients who have 8 cases and they get probation for all 8. And then I have a black client, he'll have 1 case and he'll get an offer for a prison sentence. And I already know. It's the skin color. That's why we need diversity on the bench. We need more black attorneys so that we can fight back, because they say the scales of justice are equal. It's not. We know it's lopsided, but the only thing we can do is fight.
Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate. And representing people, you're a defense attorney, right?
Yes.
So when people come to you, they telling you, hey, I did it, but I ain't trying to go to jail, right?
Sometimes. Think about it. He's not guilty, though. Everyone's not guilty that comes to me. People are falsely accused, but I've had some that straight up told me I did it and I took it to trial and I won.
Wow.
They got acquitted.
So, but if they tell you that they're guilty, do you have to say, hey, then, does a good lawyer say, I need to know everything so I don't get no surprises? Or does a good lawyer say, hey, only tell me what you want me to know? Because what does a good lawyer say?
A good lawyer puts everything in writing. That's what a good lawyer does. So from the jump, my retainer fee or my retainer agreement, there's a clause that states that you have to be truthful with your attorney, right? That's number 1. If I find out later on down the line that you lied to me, I have the option of withdrawing. So don't play that, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, anything you tell me is completely confidential. I will go to my grave with it. That's what they tell you as a lawyer, right? So first, I have to get that trust. Tell me everything, good, the bad, the ugly. It's my job to flip it, switch it, do whatever I want with it, okay? And last but not least, the reason why I take some cases to trial, even though my client confessed and said that he did it, I don't know if he really did. Because did I witness him doing it? Even if he's caught on camera, my client is entitled to a defense. Prime example, I had a case where my client allegedly stole from a convenience store.
Allegedly,
right? Caught on camera, lawyer talk, right? She was caught on camera. I mean, it was so clear as day, like that was her. Took the item, bypassed the cash register, and went out. We went to trial because had we lost that trial, she would have got a year in jail. Or had she taken a plea, she would have got a year in jail. So what do we have to lose, right? We go to trial. In order to submit a surveillance camera footage, you have to have what's called chain of custody. The person was not subpoenaed to be in trial, therefore they could not submit the surveillance video. Because they could not submit the surveillance video, my client was found not guilty. Boop, boop.
So, okay, so in a case like that, if I'm the business owner, and I am a business owner, how was that justice for me?
You
And if
are
you were
a terrible business owner, okay?
if I'm a business owner, I feel like that's not justice. If I mean, how do you justify something like that because of a loophole? She was clearly wrong. The business owner didn't receive justice. You know, I got several employees in my office. I would be pissed if
Yeah.
that happened.
Well, then you better be pissed at the prosecutor for not doing their job thoroughly. The only other recourse, he can sue her in civil court. But what she took was less than $100, so or less than $150. So he can sue her for it, but the amount of his court fees just to sue in small claims is $300. So you got to weigh your options. But that's not her fault because again, we're U.S. citizens, and the Constitution says we're innocent until proven guilty.
Man,
by the court of law.
Proven guilty by the court of law. Wow.
That's
So, dude, does this sometimes interfere with your Christian principles? You know, you representing these thugs.
absolutely. And by the way, they are accused. I call them the accused because they're accused of being something. And you know what? It actually goes together, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because every bi-weekly, I send out weekly wisdom. So I take notes in church and I send it to them because they're not the scum of the earth. That's someone's brother. That's someone's uncle. That used to be me. Okay. So those are I love my clients. In fact, Josh, I was rollerblading today at the park, and one of my clients rolled up on me. Come on now. What if I would have did him wrong? He rolled up on me just to say hi, Miss Earley. Okay. So they're not some thugs.
So I was being sarcastic, of course.
I know.
So you never have a conflict with your morals and what's best for that client. That never comes into play. Cause like, yo, bro, it's triple murder. But you know what? Cause sometimes, I watch these on YouTube, I get caught up watching like these lawyers that represent like mafia families. You know what I'm saying? Clearly they like career enterprises and Rico and whatever other name you could think of, and they lawyers just like nice with it. You know what I'm saying? So they like, I'm gonna get them off. And I'm like, okay, at what point do you say, man, it's not good that I represent you because I'm kind of enabling you and destroying the community at the same time?
Okay, here's the answer to your question, Josh. There's certain cases I will not take, right?
Okay.
I tried a sex case against a child before, and it was so hard. I have 4 kids. So if I look at the evidence and I don't believe my client, I won't take it. I have sex cases right now where I believe my client, so that's why I took it. So that's the only time I would turn down a case. I don't care how bad the evidence is. If I believe you, I have to believe you. You can't convince me to believe you. The Holy Spirit will do that for me. So if I don't believe you, I kindly turn down your case and I send you a disengagement letter and I send you on your merry way. I can't be bought. So that's the only time. But even if someone confesses to me, Josh, and says, you know what, I did do that. I did punch her in the eye, or I did that. How do I know they really did? I'm not a witness. I wasn't there. A lawyer cannot be a witness and a lawyer at the same time. What if they're covering up for somebody?
If they tell you they did it, they did it.
What if they're covering up for somebody?
Oh my! You trying to save them from themselves, huh?
No, look, I'm gonna give you a good example. So how do I know that? Okay, so someone's charged with murder, right? And they confess that they did it. How do I know that confession is true? What if they're covering up for some? I don't know. If I believe you based on the facts and evidence before me, I'm taking a case. It has nothing to do with my conscience, because think about it, this too. I didn't say he was not guilty. The jury said he was not guilty. So 7 people or 12 people found him not guilty, not me. I just represented him. Josh, you got to think about lawyers like this. We are their mouthpiece. That's it. Because we went to school, we're trained. So we are their mouthpiece. Without lawyers, what if you have an uneducated defendant? They will go to jail every single time. So they tell me their story and I translate it to the jury. That's all I am. I'm even in the scales of justice, because just because you're poor does not mean you're not entitled to zealous advocacy.
Wow.
That's
Man.
that part. I don't play.
You just dropped the bar right there, man. Okay. Well, that's interesting, man. I guess, they say if you're guilty, and you got a ton of money, you're gonna spend all your money trying to prove your guilt, So how do you know, like, what you should charge as a lawyer?
I'm led by a couple of things, because as good as an attorney that I am, I've taken cases for free. I've taken cases for a few $100s, and I've taken cases for a few $1,000s. A lot of things factor. If I really love your case and I think that cop did you dirty, and you don't have the funds, but you don't believe that public defender is going to fight for you, and you called me and you did something to my heart, then a few $100s. So it depends on the person. It depends on the facts. It depends on the evidence. So a lot of factors come into play. But you can't charge, off the scale. Everything is regulated by the bar, so there's a range. So if it's a misdemeanor case, I can't charge $10,000 for a misdemeanor, because that would be excessive. So I stick within the range.
What about like personal injury? Is that one of those type of things where you just get a cut after the settlement?
Yes, that's called a contingency fee. So 33 1/3 if it's set.
33%?
Yes.
Oh, come on, man. That's stealing. Come on, man.
That's before trial. So if you don't, say like we're negotiating, right? And you don't give me, let's say, $10,000 or $20,000, and I file my paperwork and we start going to trial, and then you want to give me, it goes up to 40%. Yes.
So if I settle, so we get $1 million, right? That 40% of that is going to you. Give me the breakdown of that.
Off the top, $1 million, I get my 40%. So that case, $1 million case, I can make that 400,000 just like that. But those cases, those are far and few in between, because and then you probably spent the whole year or 2 years on that case. And when you have those big cases, you got to focus solely on those big cases. I mean, I'm waiting on my $1 million settlement. I haven't had that yet, but I did have 6-figure settlements. Last year, I sued a very popular establishment, because it was
who was it?
It has to remain confidential.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. But very popular establishment. It was 6 Black people. They came in and the white servers did not want to serve them, so they shut the lights off on them. Luckily, one of my clients, they recorded the entire incident. And my whole argument was, you all would have never did this had it been 6 white old ladies with pearls. I always use that analogy when I'm looking at injustice, even in these traffic stops. Would that officer pulled out his gun, or recently, I think it was in Kentucky, would that officer drive over an old white lady with pearls? You can't forget the pearls, okay? So it's injustice when these officers or people are treating Black folks terribly.
Wow, that's deep. Man, getting that 40%, like, man. So wait, am I paying you hourly too? You billing me, and then you getting the 40% on top too?
No, not for personal injury cases, because we take your case. There's no guarantee that we're going to get paid. There's times I took a case and I didn't get anything. So there's a risk in taking these personal injury cases. But yeah, think about it this way. Had you not had a lawyer, you wouldn't get anything. So you rather get 60% or zero. 60% is good on any day. Yeah, and it's really not even 60% because you also have to pay your medical bills. So technically, it's you get 30%, you get 30%, and your lawyer gets the rest.
Wow. And is that tax? Is that money taxed?
Everything is taxed.
Even
If
okay, so settlements are taxed for the even for the plaintiff.
yeah,
Or
because they have to report it. They have to report. It's taxed for us if it counts as income. So part of it, if I depending on what my attorney fee is, part of that is part of that goes to me, and then the other part goes back into my firm.
oh my gosh, you attorneys, y'all just be breaking, man.
Listen, we
Oh
have
gosh.
we have student loans, okay? So those have to be paid.
So when you go into a courtroom, as a woman, a black woman, do you feel like you have to know more than like a white counterpart, or do you feel like if it's a white judge that they're gonna have a bias against you?
Always.
Wow,
Always.
really?
I always feel that I'm incompetent until I prove myself competent. Now, I've been a lawyer for 6 years now, and most of these judges already know my name. So I've established that reputation that I don't play. But I came out the gate running, punching, kicking, fighting, because I already knew, first of all, I don't see a lot of black folks like me. And then even in the courtroom, there's a white bailiff, there's a white clerk, there's a white judge, there's a white prosecutor, and then there's a black defendant and a black attorney. I already feel like, you know what, this is not going to be a fair fight. So let me suit up and just be, that advocate for my client. But I already know that it's not a fair fight, and it won't be fair until we make it fair.
Man, that's kind of unfortunate. So, but that's interesting that you kind of feel that I guess tension in the room. Um, I mean, what can be done to kind of and how do we get past white supremacy and systematic racism in the legal system?
Education, number one, because look at my story. Education is what brought me here. Yeah, I was locked up. Yeah, I grew up in the inner city. I'm a product of a single parent background. Like I am what you would call that child that should have been, discarded. But education kept calling me because I knew that I didn't have an inheritance, I didn't have a trust fund. So the only way that I could make it was to get an education. So we need to educate these white supremacists. We need to educate. My job is to educate the jury. There's times I had an all-white jury panel and I had a quote unquote thug-looking client that was charged with drugs and stolen property. So I knew that, man, I'm gonna have to educate this jury that, yeah, he looks like this, but he's actually Jamaican. Look at me, I'm Jamaican as well. My dad is Jamaican. I have never worn my hair like this in court. Since quarantine, I said, I'm gonna do me. And when quarantine is over and we go back to court, I'm still gonna do me because I'm gonna let the jury listen to what's coming out of my mouth and not what's sitting on top of my head. So it's my job to educate the jury and let them know if you go back there and deliberate and you don't deliberate on the facts and evidence, but you deliberate on the color of my client's skin, then you are wrong. So I leave them with that. Like when they come back out, they have no other choice but to find my client not guilty.
Do you ever feel that maybe somebody like me, man, I don't want no black woman representing me. I need me a white man, you know,
Yeah. Listen,
like even racism from your own people.
of course, it happens all the time. I have cards, right? And the traps. Know your legal rights. One time my assistant gave a card to this guy, a black guy, and he told her, I don't want a black attorney, I want a Jewish attorney. Not a problem. This is America. Feel free. And I'm always underestimated because I don't know what it is about me. I don't know if I have stupid written over my head and I just don't see it, but everyone tends to underestimate me until trial starts. And every other second, I'm getting up saying, objection, objection, yes. So I use that. I'm kind of glad that I'm underestimated because I feel like that's part of my winning strategy. They don't fight as hard. They didn't think that Kaysia knew. I mean, you would think that they knew, but it goes on.
Wow, that's interesting, man. So that's it's your own people doing
Own
that
pe-
to you, man. Own people. But I guess that's in any field. Do you ever, with all that you've been through, do you ever feel a sense of like imposter syndrome, even with the confidence that you have? Like maybe you don't belong?
I did in the beginning. I did. Um, Physically, I felt like I didn't belong because I didn't want to look too black. Because I felt that if I looked too black or talked too black, the jury would not find my client not guilty. I used to always Europeanize myself. So I would wear the long weaves and I would change the way I spoke. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. That's too much work. So I slowly started to embrace who I was and embrace what I was studying. And my winning formula was to know my case, know the law, and I would win every time. And, thankfully, I have.
Wow, that's dope. So you gonna come in there with a dashiki
No, but I
and the
do wear my
kufi?
attire. I wear my African print now. But if
Wow.
I'm not a daishiki girl, but I love fashion, and fashion transcends all countries. So, I'm just gonna do me
Okay.
because I'm the
Well,
boss of my.
well, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So if tell me some positive things, some positive memories you had while being a student at Howard.
Oh my goodness, let me tell you, I never missed a homecoming until 2011 when we moved down here to go to law school. And that first year, I was going through withdrawals. I even told my husband, I need to fly up there just for homecoming. I missed the vibe. I missed the atmosphere, just the yard, everything. Now, I've lived in all of the dorms except for the quad. I lived in the quad for like 3 days and I couldn't take it. Their AC, they didn't even have AC back then, I don't think. But just the life, the college life, the Chinese food place on the corner, Georgia Avenue, the sub shop. Come on now. That was my place. And at Towers.
Yeah.
So just,
And you were a part of some epic fashion shows too, right?
yeah. So
What was that like being up there, getting oiled up,
let me
walking across the catwalk with Lance Gross and other
it,
other
Serena
beautiful people in
Williams,
front of the best that the black world has to offer?
were you there the year Serena Williams did the fashion show in the Crampton Auditorium?
Man, I was there. I was looking at her body like, damn.
Right.
I remember she was just like,
Listen, listen, I give compliments what compliments is due, okay? But yeah, I used to do fashion shows. Lance and I, we did fashion shows together, and it's crazy because I remember I was watching TV one day and I was like, that look like, I said, that is him. But I remember he told us that he was going back to California and that he always wanted to do acting. So he definitely fulfilled his dream.
mhm.
But I was actually one of the designers for the fashion show. So I sew. That's one of my things. I'm a seamstress. So I
Nice.
would make the clothes. And one day I was making the clothes and I ran out of fabric. And the fashion show was the next day. And I remember I was like, I can't let the director down. So I had the Hilltop newspaper and I was using the Hilltop newspaper as my pattern. And I said, you know what? So I called my mom in a panic. And I was telling her, I said, man, I ran out of fabric. The fabric store is closed. What am I going to do? I have class in the morning. I can't do it in the morning. And I just made an outfit out of the newspaper, but no one could fit it when I got there. So yours truly modeled in the fashion show.
Yo, that's dope. I love it, man. That's probably a story you could tell your kids. You never forget. You know what I mean?
Now I got all my pictures. I got them. I got them here. They look at me now, and that's another reason I went rollerblading. It was like, "Ma, you don't look like a model anymore." I'm like, "Yeah, I got kids. What you expect?"
Wow. It can't be perfect, right?
I know, can't.
So what advice do you have for the 17, 18-year-old Kaysia coming into Howard right now?
Um, Choose your friends wisely.
Mm,
Because when I came, remember, I came from, I didn't have any friends. Most of my associates were in Miami. And I just wanted to be loved by everyone. So whoever you were, if you spoke to me, I spoke to you, but you're not going to gel with everyone. You're not going to click with everyone. And it's okay not to be popular. That's another thing. I want to be popular. So I did everything. I went to all the clubs. I did all the fashion shows. I did all the after parties. And yeah, just watch who you hang out with, because the main ones that were asking for a hookup, I never associated with them again. So choose your friends wisely.
How can somebody get in touch with you right now? If I'm in need of your services, maybe I need some mentorship or just want to chop it up on, you know, being a lawyer. How can somebody get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest way is to Google my first and last name. So Kaysia, Kaysia, last name Earley, Earley. It has all of my social media links on there. Via Instagram, Earley, Earley Law Firm, Facebook. But the easiest way is Google. As soon as you type that, that's a unique name. No one has a Kaysia Earley. Everything will show up. My website, my Facebook, my Instagram, and anything else that's posted.
Wow. What an amazing story, man. Kaysia Earley, you've been a wonderful guest today. I appreciate you coming on the show. Hopefully we can do this again. Go ahead.
Yes.
Got something for me?
I definitely want to talk about traps real quick. So this
Let's
is what
talk
I came
about it. Let's talk about the traps.
These are rights these are your constitutional legal rights, right? So TRAPS, real quick. T stands for don't get tricked. An officer will lie to you during a traffic stop. Don't give anything incriminated. R, be respectful. Watch your hand movements and your gestures. A, you have a right to a free attorney. P, never give permission. And S, silence is golden. So I literally came up with this acronym, and I've been giving out thousands of cards absolutely free all across the United States. Practically every state has requested a card except for Hawaii and Alaska. So if you want a free card, you can DM me on social media. But this is what you need to have. If you get pulled over, put it on your visor, pull it down, read it verbatim, avoid the traps.
Oh, I love it. I need to come up with something like that for my this business I'm working on now. I love that, man. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining the HU Movemaker podcast, where we highlight folks that have contributed to the Howard legacy at the highest levels. To hear more interviews or purchase merchandise, please visit www.humovemakers.com.